Do you ever have a conversation with someone and the moment it's ended, you walk away and you think, oh, I don't know what I just did, but I am now terrified that I've just made a fool of myself. You feel shame, you want to hide, you suspect that somehow you were inappropriate, but you don't even know how. Okay, that is what I call fear. And a lot of people talk about getting free of fear, but what's missing is they don't tell you how. I'm going to tell you how. Getting overwhelmed with fear is so normal for those of us who had trauma from childhood. And I know everyone feels this sometimes, but for those of us with childhood PTSD, looping fear thoughts are like built into your thinking. It's like the hum of a fan in the background that you don't even notice anymore. And so it feels true, those fears running through your mind. And they might be a little bit true, but it's usually an inaccurate read on what's actually going on in your world. It's noise in your thinking, and it undermines your efforts to make positive changes in your life. And you're thinking, I can't because I suck. And anyway, nothing ever lasts, and you know the thoughts I'm talking about. So if you're going to heal and rise up out of the effects of the trauma that you've lived through, you need a way to free yourself from that kind of fear. You need something that works, not only long-term, but in the moment. You have no idea how much everything changes when your perception clears up about who is an ally, who's a threat, when has somebody mistreated you, and when you're just feeling a little bit wounded. The trouble is that living through a lot of trauma, especially when you're little, can make that so hard to do. And if you're like me, you tried all kinds of things to try to feel better and function better and like see better, like what's going on. Maybe books, experts, groups, exercises, all the things that you're supposed to do. But also, if you're like me, the advice of people who didn't grow up with trauma didn't quite fit. Do you know what I'm talking about? Fear means a different thing to them. They talk about feeling safe. I mean, what does that exactly mean? Have you ever wondered that? Like, what do you mean be safe? You can't really make it safe for somebody who doesn't tend to feel safe. Because how many times when you were a kid, did you feel safe, but then you found out how very wrong you were? So you can't really trust your perceptions, or you learn that you can't until you learn things so that you can. So some concepts might not translate for us. And it's the same when non-traumatized people talk about getting rid of fear. It's a card trick or like a mindset, right? A decision they make and they're like, ta-da, I'm not going to have fear. So for us, it can be very different than that. Like the decision is not enough. Fear for me was like the air that I breathed. I was stuck in this one gear. I couldn't accept it. I couldn't change it. So I always had to pretend it wasn't happening and just try to like make a happy face and act normal. Now, maybe you have that too. It's common for people with trauma. I actually felt ashamed for having fear. I mean, that's like double ashamed, right? Because whatever normal people were doing to achieve this fearless state they said they lived in, I didn't understand what they were talking about. To this day, some of the things that non-traumatized people say about how to do life make no sense to me. I tried them and they didn't really do anything for me. They couldn't even touch the distress that I can get into sometimes when I'm dysregulated, when my trauma wounds are activated, and the lack of confidence that would keep me isolated and defensive and knowing on some level that I was locked out of my own life. I couldn't even communicate that to normal people. And then I found how to get free. And it's not a mind trick, it's a practical technique. It's two techniques actually, done together morning and evening that I call my daily practice. And you might have heard me talk about it. And maybe you've tried it. And in this video, I'm going to tell you very briefly how to do it. I'll give you a little micro version of it. And I teach with deeper insight and more careful details in my free course called The Daily Practice, which you will always find down there in like the second link below this video. It's free. You can sign up, you can learn and try this technique in less than an hour. And if you do sign up for it, you'll be invited to calls with me, Zoom calls. I do them twice a month. They're free. People come from all over the world and we do the techniques together and I take questions. Like, this is such a big change in my life that prompted such a profound healing and, completely made it possible for me to heal it all, that my whole life for over 30 years now, I'm just like showing people how to do it, showing people how to do it. So this is like a little version. So what it is, you need a pen and paper and a chair so you can sit down and write. And honestly, I've written standing up. I've written driving the car with my finger on the upholstery next to me, or I've written in a hospital bed with my finger on the sheet. When I need to, I write. It's what works for me to unpack that dense tangle of fearful, resentful thoughts that just tend to pile up in our minds and hearts as traumatized people. If you had a lot of trauma in the past, you know what I'm talking about. And a lot of people have this, even if they didn't have trauma as kids. Maybe it was later trauma. Maybe you're on the spectrum. Maybe you're a very sensitive person, a highly sensitive person. And when stuff gets intense, it overwhelms your nervous system and you need a way to unpack it. So what you do is you're going to write on your piece of paper a fear. All right. So I'll give you an example of my fear. So I was coughing as I was trying to make this video. There was a lot of dust in here because I just cleaned the studio. So it's kind of dusty. So I kept coughing, and the editor will have taken out those things by now. You'll probably see some little jumps in the video where he took those out. So right now I'm literally feeling like, uh-oh, I'm going to cough. So when you're writing your fears and resentments, you're literally dealing with what it is that's bothering your mind right now. And that doesn't mean you don't put there stuff about the past or the future. A fear is a distressing thought. It's anything where you don't feel like things are as they should be. I have fear the world will never have peace. I have fear I need a pedicure. I have fear. I have fear I didn't buy enough bell peppers, and fear now we'll have to ration them. So they can be dumb things, they can be huge important things, they could be true things or things that are just like not really happening, and even you know that it's not really happening, but it's bothering you. And so it goes on paper. So if you have a piece of paper right now and anything to write with, just go ahead and write a fear for yourself as I'm talking. And then I'm going to guide you to go ahead and write a couple more. Just get a few fears onto the paper. And yes, we use the words I have fear. And in my free course, I'll tell you exactly why we do the words this way, why it goes like this. So you're going to write, a fear, some fears. So let's just say I have an angry thought about something. So here's one. Newark Airport, they decided to refurbish one of their terminals during the height of travel season, and they ruined like 2 days of my life last month traveling. Something that should have been a 6-hour flight ended up being an ordeal both ways. Okay, I was resentful, and I was flying an airline that is actually perfectly good, and it's not their fault. They did a wonderful job of dealing with it. And then all these people were complaining about it. Okay, so here's an example. I am resentful at this airline because I have fear they didn't do anything to quiet down the people who I have fear were yelling at the people who worked at the desk, and fear the people who were angry and stomping around, fear they made it very stressful for me, and fear it activated my trauma, and fear it made the trip that much harder for me. Okay, that's an example. Okay, so that's a resentment. And the format again is, I am resentful at person or institution. And I said the airline in this case. Person, category of person, country, nationality, company, things like that. Air traffic controllers. You could just, you have a target at somebody you're mad at. And you name them, and then you say, I'm resentful at them. But because we're doing this in writing, we don't just say, because it was a hard day. We say, because I have fear it was a hard day. And then it helps if you can get detailed about what those fears underneath that are. You don't really tend to get resentful unless there's a lot of fears under it. Fear it ruined my trip. Fear I got there late. Fear I was supposed to have the better part of a day in New York City, and fear that was taken away from us. And then fear we had to go home on a flight that took 14 hours. So resentments are named. They have this special format. I'm resentful at target because I have fear, the reason. Now, when you think it in your mind, I'm resentful at the target because they did this. But on paper, when we're using the daily practice, I'm resentful at target because I have fear they did this. Now, I know there's always the argument inside, but they did do it. This did happen. Many of the things that we're resentful about are, absolutely certifiably they did happen. And other things, maybe we worry they happened, but they didn't happen. So for good measure, we just sort of say, I'm resentful at them because I have fear this thing happened. And even, you can comfort yourself knowing that The thing is, if you had no fear, if you were perfectly at ease and blissful about whatever happened to your day on airplanes and how much time you had in New York City, it wouldn't make you resentful. All right? And I'm not saying you should feel that way, but we get resentful because we have fear. We thought things should be a way other than what they are in actuality, and we get disturbed about it. So it's human, it's normal, it's how our minds will always work, but we put it on paper there to note, I'm resentful at this thing because I have fear, this thing. And you'll often find if you linger, there are more fears under that. So you write those too. Now, you don't know yet, but you are going to be amazed how powerful it is to name what your fears and resentments are and get them on paper. And I have a 25-question FAQ document that is inside my book, Re-Regulated. I also have a whole FAQ section in the free course. And if you want to try this, I encourage you, go check that out, because you'll be like, but why do we say fear? And why do we not say because I'm afraid? And why do we say I'm resentful at? And why do I have to say because I have fear when obviously I should be angry about what this happened? So it has answers to all those questions. What happens if I do this and it doesn't feel better? Hey, I'm jumping in for just a second to tell you that you're invited to take my free daily practice course. It's short, it's easy, it's just 2 techniques that can help you release the harsh thoughts and feelings that swirl around in your mind when something triggers you, so that you can have more clarity, more focus, more ease inside. Doesn't that sound good? I want to show you how to do this. Click the free daily practice link in the second line of the description section below. The thing that makes it feel better is doing this whole exercise with an intention of writing these things to lead up to this, which is what I call the sign-off. And this is where we ask for it to be removed. And I think most of the people I teach are like me. They are higher power oriented. I believe in God. The way I learned this, even though I didn't believe in God when I first started doing it, I would put God at the top of the paper and write this as a prayer and then lead up to this sign-off, which the format you will recognize from 12-step language if you've ever done that, because that's who I learned it from, was somebody who was in AA and had sort of put together this special way to do something like twice a day to keep cleansing the mind and emotions of these distressing thoughts. So the sign-off is like this: I am now ready and humbly ask that you remove these fears and resentments. Thank you. I ask only for knowledge of your will for us and the power to carry it out. Love, Anna. That's how it goes. And again, the whole format for this is in the free course. And I totally encourage you to sign up for it so that you can, get your questions answered and not have to do it with doubts in your mind. Like, I don't know, this kind of feels like BS. There's no need for you to push yourself to do something that feels stupid or useless. Like, if you think you want to give this a try, give it a try. It has integrity. It's very simple. It's compatible with anything else you want to do. And if you're not a higher power-oriented person, you maybe want to just work with your higher self and release these things. I have an adapted format for that as well, where you express your intention. I am now ready, and I'm endeavoring to release all these fears and resentments, and I aim to know what is the best next step for me to do, and I aim to have the power to actually carry that out. You know how you ever notice that? It's 2 separate things. You know the right thing to do, but you don't have the power to do it. Freeze state, right? So we ask for both. I need to know what I'm supposed to do here, and then I need to have the power to do it. What you're going to find out if you stick with this technique is what happens over time. Like, if you do this for 30 days, stuff starts to really change, because you're starting to continually set your intention, your heart and your mind towards, I don't want to be all cluttered up with all these fearful and resentful thoughts. You're going to need to trust the process that you can release them, and whatever you need to act on or know or remember, it'll still be there. Don't worry. In fact, some of the stuff you don't need will come back and cling to you like one of those little, dandelion things, where the stuff flies around and gets stuck on your sweater. They do that because we're human. So we just keep removing it, asking for it to be removed, releasing it. And this space opens up where you start to have awareness. And for me, before I learned this technique, I didn't even really know what awareness is. I probably had it as a kid, but mostly, once I was a grown up, my mind was very cluttered with, my husband, who's English, calls it chuntering. I don't know. I'm pretty worried about this. Oh, I better hurry up. I got to go do this thing. I'm late. Oh, what's everybody thinking of me? There was always this like internal monologue going on of my worries and my stresses and my to-do list. And there wasn't a lot of like just awareness. It just like for the first time I had the experience of like, let's see, what would I like to think about right now? Oh, I know. And I would like choose what to think about. I had no memory of that before. And it dramatically changed my career very quickly because people could see. I mean, suddenly I could really listen to what was going on. I could actually read more than a paragraph and not have to reread it. I could focus and I could synthesize information with my intelligent mind. We were born with one, but the trauma can really dim that light. So it starts to come back and it feels really good. And sometimes it feels terrible because I'll tell you what, when you have less fear and resentment, you start to have less ability to tolerate crappy stuff in your life. It loses its charm over you. You have less fear that you can't leave a relationship that's bad, for example. Like, when you're in a sort of trauma-driven mindset, you're like, I better not leave. I'll be alone forever. I should just take what I could get. After all, she said, that's all gone. You have less fear. So you're just like, yeah, I'm not feeling it. I feel like I need to go. And if you do need to do something hard, like leaving a relationship, when you have less fear and resentment, you can do it peacefully, without a lot of yelling and screaming and accusations or, cheating on the person or anything like that. So you start to have this awareness to be able to take good actions that make sense for your life and that are considerate to other people. And like, if you're in a lot of like high drama right now, that might sound boring to you, but trust me, there is nothing more boring than being stuck in trauma. It's dramatic and painful, but it's not interesting. It's not like enticing. It doesn't stimulate you or open the horizons of your life to good things. That's what comes from having calm awareness, from having a regulated nervous system. Can you imagine having that? Isn't that great? It feels good. It feels good to be free of fear. But I'm human. I get fear. It comes back. It's just that I know what to do with it. And because I know what to do with it, my life has evolved to where a lot fewer stressful, high drama things are happening. They still happen. They're going to happen for all of us sometimes. And so, but there's less to react to. There's more space to, get things done, enjoy things, sit outside on the sofa. I have a sofa on my deck. It's very nice. Got it at Costco. Best thing I ever bought. So you can sit there in the sun a little bit and warm up when it's cold. And then I go, oh, I'm going to water the geraniums. And then I get back to work. And so I have a choice now about how I use my time. And there's like moments of pleasure and peace. And then when hard things happen, I can rise up like a fierce warrior to go deal with what must be dealt with, like the IRS. I'm just laughing because people who listen to my calls know I got my identity stolen last year. And so I have all these problems with the IRS. And it's very hard because every time you call them, they don't remember what your situation is. And, you wait on hold a long time. So I get very resentful at them. And then it's a time when you're sitting on hold that you can sit and write. You can write your fears and resentments when you're, sitting on hold and you're forced to listen to annoying music or, repeated, we'll be with you very soon. Stuff that for a person who gets dysregulated, it's like, you can't, you're a hostage, right? Because you have to stay and be there when it's finally your turn 45 minutes later. So that's what it's for. It's for dealing with life the way life just happens to be. You can write at work. You can write, by yourself crying on a hard day. You can write when you're happy. And a lot of people want to give up doing these techniques, writing, just because everything got happy. But I always say it's more like a toothbrush than an aspirin. If you do this twice a day, every day, you start to have this very robust, healthy, vibrant mind and heart. Hey, it's me, and real fast, if you're watching my videos and wondering if maybe past trauma is having an effect on your life today, I want to share with you a list of signs that what you're struggling with now might be connected with neglect or abuse in childhood. It's good to know this because it can help you know that what's hard for you is normal and that healing is possible. So download my Signs of Childhood PTSD quiz by clicking the top link in the description section below. So when we write, and we write that closing, and then we follow it with a restful 20-minute meditation, We've just given our brain and nervous system the chance to come back to the lovely state it's meant to be in. Every once in a while I fall asleep in that meditation, which is totally fine. We're not being like perfect Zen statues here. We're just resting our minds and nervous system. And it feels good. And you won't know what it does for you until you give it a try. You do not have to be fully healed to move forward with this. Sometimes people say this, I'm too dysregulated, I can't do it. This is what it's made for. It's made for people like you and me who get very freaked out in our heads and emotions. And you get that pen in your paper and you start to write on the pen to write on the paper, and you feel that friction of pen on paper, and it instantly, after you've done this enough times, it immediately starts to relax you. So I can't wait to see who you become when you have less fear and resentment. If you like this video, I've got one lined up for you that will help you take your next step, and that's right here.